if you can't defeat your enemy, just befriend it. So after this Bitcoin came up, initially people just ignored it, that it's not going to cause any disruption and all, but it started gaining the momentum, and then the financial industries, banks suddenly realized that probably they are under threat, and this particular technology has a potential to wipe them out.
Thank you for finding us. Like us, you are the growing gang of curious people keen to understand what the future holds. I, Eddie Avil, am your host for Change I Am Possible podcast, a platform and a community for disruptors, innovators, policy, change makers, impact investors, and dreamers working on shaping or coming tomorrow. My effort will be to probe and ask the most contextual and relevant questions, answers that add value, even at the risk of being judged. The fourth industrial revolution is upon us, and exponential technologies stands to disrupt all industry verticals. The choice we make today will chart the trajectory of a civilization. Future demands us to be brave and bold, so let's walk together as one into this new world, a world of all-encompassing possibilities, leveraging technology, the tool that's redefining what it means to be a human. Let's challenge our traditional mindset. Let's challenge the word impossible, because if you break it down, the word itself says, I am possible. So let's dive into the future with a guest for today. Sarang Bhoya is a blockchain front mover and a leader that sets large organization on a blockchain transformational journey. Sarang was the ex-blockchain program manager at Infosys. He has 20 years of industry experience and has a distinction of being one of the first in India who implemented blockchain technology for international remittance and domestic trade. I wish you enjoy this conversation. Could you actually explain to our audience, in layman's term, what blockchain is and its potential?
Blockchain is a distributed ledger technology.
Right.
So if I have to really put it in a way that person who does not understand technology at all, what I would say, whenever you do some kind of transaction with your bank or any financial institution, a transaction gets recorded somewhere. It's in a database. Okay, so it's just an entry that goes in. Now currently what is happening is that the database is maintained by the bank that you are doing business with. It is only with that bank. Now distributed ledger technology, what it is going to do, that information is going to be replicated with all the banks or all the participants that are participating in that particular business process. Let's say you are doing a transaction, I am transferring money to you, but I cannot transfer money to you directly unless I am doing this cash transaction. If I have to do a electronic money transfer, so it has to go through multiple parties. It goes through payment gateway, it goes through different channels, it goes through banks, and then it reaches you. So in this whole process, if I transfer you 100 rupees, sometimes it may happen that because of this cost involved in it, you might not get 100 rupees. There will be a cut that is taken by all these parties.
Right.
So what this distributed ledger technology is going to achieve for us is, I would be able to directly deal with you.
Take the middleman out of the system.
Exactly. So this is decentralization, and it's also called a disintermediation. Right? That way you would be taking out all these middlemen, and my 100 rupees will be transferred to you as 100 rupees. Right? So this is what on a high level I can explain. To give you a simple example how it might work, that everybody would be able to relate, but this is not exactly how it works. So when I say that this ledger gets replicated everywhere, why I want to do that? Because I want to take out the intermediary. At this point, this middleman is playing the role of building a trust in this whole system. Because when I transfer money to you, I want to be very sure that that money that has been taken out of my account would reach your account, and for that I need a middleman who is trustworthy, and that part is currently played by these banks or the central banks. Now, if I want to take out that
the banking system,
I need to have something that builds in trust in this whole system. For that, I need to do something which everybody would be able to verify. That's why I have to replicate this ledger everywhere, so that everybody would be able to see that I have 100 rupees which I have transferred to you. And then they can record that the money that I have, 100 rupees will be deducted from there and 100 rupees will be added to your account, so that everybody in the system would know that now you have 100 rupees more than what you had earlier. And for that, I don't need any middleman, right? So this replication, this is something we must ensure that once the change has happened, nobody would be able to change it. And for that, I need multiple thousands of people participating in that. And we call those as nodes in the blockchain, right? So here, let's say we are a group of some 1,000 people who are on the WhatsApp group. And I am sending a message on that WhatsApp group that I need to send, or I am sending 100 rupees to Eddie.
Right.
And that message goes in each and every inbox. So if it comes to you, it also comes to all those 1,000 people. So if I want, to play something, play dirty on it, and I delete that message from my WhatsApp group,
Everybody else gets to know about it.
even if they don't, it doesn't matter, because everybody else's WhatsApp group is already saying that you have the 100 rupees.
Right.
So I can change my ledger, but I can't change the ledger of 999 people, right? So it is very difficult for me to play up and modify the system, and that is the beauty of this decentralization.
Right, lovely, and thank you for explaining it in such a beautiful way. So tell me, obviously the promise of blockchain, the decentralized, it's beautiful, right? I mean, you would want to see a world where the problem of that, what a middleman causes disappears, But then the middleman, what you're talking about, is really big. It's like these bankers. Or how have they been reacting to something like this? Though blockchain has been in a nascent stage, how have they been reacting to this technology?
Yeah, so there is this saying, if you can't defeat your enemy, just befriend it.
Right.
So this is what is happening. So after this Bitcoin came up, initially people just ignored it, that it's not going to cause any disruption and all, but it started gaining the momentum, and then the financial industries and banks suddenly realized that probably they are under threat, and this particular technology, has a potential to wipe them out. So the best thing they did was they actually started embracing the technology itself, right? So by using this technology, they understood that they would be able to actually cut down costs drastically, would be able to offer different types of service offerings, newer types of offerings which were not possible previously. So they started adopting the technology for that purpose also. So they started doing different types of experiment with it. But just to give you an idea, this is not about money, or this is not about financial industry. This particular technology has such a potential that it is going to touch practically everything, every industry and everything that we are doing. So this is something that is going to bring in a lot of efficiency, a lot of improvements into our lives when gets implemented in all those areas. But obviously, because banking industry and financial services has a lot of money, and also they were the main, they were feeling the heat of it. They started doing the experimentation with it, and they're doing quite good. And in terms of thinking about different models or different business processes where they can implement this, they're going ahead with this blockchain implementation. And all over the world, banks are coming together to form the consortiums and to see how they can actually work together.
Right.
And its end benefits are actually going to be delivered to the end customers only, right? So this is, in a way, we would get benefited from this adoption of this blockchain technology.
Right. So you said, blockchain is going to be used across industries. So can you just talk about some of the industries that have been actually using it right now and implemented it right now? Because, when you go to these conferences, there's a lot of these players, speakers who kind of talk about the technology. And sometimes, when the conference gets over, it's just all that is left is talks, but there's no implementation, right?
Right.
So can you just talk about those implementations right now, which has been adopted and we can see it at this point in time affecting people?
At this point, you won't be able to see it right away,
right,
as a tangible benefits, but there is a lot of work that is happening. The work is happening in the specifically in the government services space. So you you must have heard that different state governments are trying to use the blockchain technology to deliver government services like birth certificates or different kinds of certificates that government provides to you, or even the identity or the KYC. You must have heard about Andhra government is doing some experiments of putting all the land records on blockchain.
Right.
It's going to be a huge use case to put this land records on blockchain, which would actually stop all kinds of malpractices that are happening in the space of lands, as well as the revenue that is coming out of it, and also the corruption that is behind this properties that are not legitimate. So all this is going to be disrupted by this technology that is coming in. There are a lot of things that are being done in the healthcare industry, where the privacy of patients' data is very important, and all the records of patients which are currently can be can go out in public and can be misused to any level by the industries, pharma industry, or even other agents that are in this. That probably would have a solution in blockchain, because it is something that is going to give the power to the user to decide with whom the user wants to share the data. So probably my medical records or my particular pathology report or my X-ray to be shared to a particular doctor for a particular amount of time that I can decide, and later I can revoke that permission. So this way the user would be in full control of his personal data and would be able to even monetize going down the line, instead of the other companies using it for free.
Right. I mean, monetizing data is a big, at this point in time, I think all of the social media platforms, the biggest social media platforms, I think have just taken a data and are using it according to their own whims and fancies. And monetizing data is a very far out thought, because, I mean, people are just gathering our data, and that's how these big organizations functions, right from the advertising industry to the government and everything. So you were talking about government. Voting would be like another application which blockchain could come, because, right?
Yes, couple of countries have already
Estonia,
piloted few applications where the voting would be done using the blockchain. While it is a good use case, there are some more which has much more or much larger benefits. So unless there is an issue of malpractices in the voting, probably it might not have that much momentum at this point. But as I said, as we go along and the blockchain technology gets implemented in different areas, practically everything would be there, and we would be doing a lot of things on the platforms or the softwares which would be running on blockchain technology, but we wouldn't even know it.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me, there are a lot of these startups, there are a lot of these companies, enterprises who've got these POCs and stuff like that. But is there any production implementation of blockchain?
Definitely. So interestingly, one of the first blockchain production implementation did happen in India, and it was the usual suspect, that is the international remittances. Okay. One of the biggest private banks in India did the international remittances with one of the biggest banks in Emirates, and they did it on blockchain platform. And that is where actually it started a race amongst different banks inside India to start getting into blockchain, start exploring things. And also the regulators in India like RBI and their design arm, IDRBT, they are also very keen, and they are very supportive in terms of encouraging these financial services organizations to explore all these technologies so that they in turn actually benefit the end customers. So as compared to a lot of conservative governments and the regulators around the world in different countries, even in developed countries, India has been far ahead. in terms of experimenting with these technologies to put it to the use of end customers.
Right.
And apart from this, there have been a few implementations in the space of trade finances. There are few in terms of in logistics industry to track the package end to end. But yes, there have been few. The adoption has been pretty slow. It could have been much better, but as time progresses and people get more confidence in the technology, obviously this adoption is going to grow much faster. So today, if I want to have my passport, I need to, currently we are doing the application online, but even after doing the application and booking the appointment, I need to physically go at a place in the office wherein I need to submit a lot of hard copies, a lot of documents like my address proof, my identity proof, and a lot of other things, right? Then I go to some other place, some other organization, government organization, wherein I want my license. So again there I need to submit hard copies of my identity proof, which could be my Aadhaar, which could be my PAN card, or anything else which proves my identity that I am a person XYZ, and then where I live, so that is my address proof, and probably some more things. Then I go to a third place, let's say I want to apply for PAN, I didn't have it, so again I give all those things. So question is, these are all government organizations trying to give some kind of identity or some kind of document to a citizen, and still I have to go at every place and reproduce the same set of documents. So it's a lot of inefficiency and it's a lot of paperwork, and it actually increases the cost as well as efforts from government side as well as from my side to get these things. When blockchain comes in, what is going to happen is I just have to create my identity once, probably at the time of my birth. And once that identity is created on the blockchain, then nowhere I have to go with any kind of documents but just that identity number. And with Aadhaar infrastructure that is already in place in India, wherein I can just put my thumb impression or my biometrics and I would be identified with that number. I can just walk in any government organization, or for that matter anybody using that service, and put my thumb there, and it would be proven that this is me and I reside at this place, and I don't have to prove it through any other documentation. Right. This would be a great change that you would be seeing. This is something that is a tangible benefit that people would see. Similar kind of things will happen when you go to a financial services organization. Let's say you go to a bank and you want a loan. So today, to prove your credit worthiness, you have to produce a lot of documents, right? How many tax filings you have done in previous years. If you have a credit history wherein you have paid your bills properly, or you paid your previous loans properly and all that. So these things, once we get into a system which is implemented on blockchain, everything would be stored on blockchain. So I don't even have to prove to anybody. Rather, the banks or the organizations would know themselves that this particular customer already has this history, and they would be actually ready with this amount, saying, you are already eligible for 20 lakhs of loans because of your credit history, and I don't have to prove anything. So everything is going to be recorded there. It is immutable, nobody can change it, and this is where I would go and use this information to take any kind of services from this organization. So this is something, these kinds of benefits you are going to see very soon.
Right. So people have a misconception about what blockchain is, and they kind of at times think of it as cryptocurrency, and that's where the problem is. So India has actually banned Bitcoin. Is cryptocurrency kind of pulling down the blockchain?
No, not really. So first thing we need to understand is Bitcoin is not blockchain. Bitcoin is just one application of blockchain.
Right.
So it is, if I have to give the analogy, so Bitcoin is a knife and blockchain is a steel. Okay. So knife is used for some bad purpose, let's say. You can't ban steel for it, right? So knife is just one application of it. Similarly, the cryptocurrency has been a very touchy subject. So there are both the views on it. So there are people who are, you may call them anarchists, who do not like any kind of control, but there are reasons why they do not like that kind of control. So they are supporting this cryptocurrency, which would enable anonymous transaction between people, between you and me, without involving anybody else. But there are then regulators and governments who are also worried about some more things, like money being laundered for the purposes which are not legal, or probably a financial terrorism. So we need to keep check on that. So for that we need to place certain restrictions, right? And that is possible only when I know the two parties that are transacting with each other and for what purpose, right? So that is why there is a push from the government side that this transaction cannot be anonymous. It has to be between parties that are known. So this tussle of libertarian kind of a freedom fighters of this and the government which is trying to have a control, this is going to go on. So we, without getting into the cryptocurrency debate, we can just focus on the technology. So if you search internet and try to understand what people are saying about blockchain, so you would see all big people, whether it's Warren Buffett or Bill Gates, everybody would have apprehensions about the cryptocurrency, but they would definitely put this point that the technology that powers this is a very solid technology. It's a transformational technology, and it has to be used and has to be applied to as many areas as possible. So there is actually nobody who has questioned the power of blockchain as a technology.
So with blockchain, when you do one transaction and this transaction has it turns into these different blocks or chains throughout, that means so much of data, additional data, right? And do you see a scalability issue with that?
To answer that question, first I must I want you to understand there are two types of blockchains. There are actually many more after that, but just understand two basic types. One is a public blockchain, another is a private blockchain. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, and most of these cryptocurrencies that we know, these are public blockchains. What it means that anybody can join. There is no central authority to decide whether a particular person can join this network or not. So you can just download a software, you connect to the network and you join, right? So this is a public, okay? So this is available to all. Now there are another type of blockchains, blockchain network that have come up because the enterprise today, large organizations like banks and others, actually do not need a public blockchain to do their business. Rather, they want a restrictive kind of a network wherein they would decide who would come and join as a node and do transaction on it. So these are the blockchains that are called permission blockchain or private blockchains. When you talk about a public blockchain, because there is no central authority that is deciding, there has to be an algorithm which takes care of double spending issue, which takes care of data integrity, immutability, and all other aspects of blockchain, right? So that's why that particular algorithm, in case of Bitcoin, it is called proof of work, that has been developed in such a way that anybody who wants to tamper with or do any kind of change to the blockchain, he has to spend immense amount of electricity to do that, and only then he will be able to make some change to the blockchain. Now, anybody who is spending so much money on the electricity would do that only to earn the bitcoins out of that. And he wouldn't risk of doing anything which would decrease the value of a bitcoin in the market. So he would always play honest in that network. So that is the whole purpose of keeping that algorithm there. But when we talk about a public, the permission or the private blockchain, there is actually no need of putting this kind of control there, because the nodes that are participating in this network are already authenticated nodes. these are known people. These could be known banks that we know. So they have this KYC agreement signed and then only they join. So there is no need to put this resource intensive algorithm to take care of this things that we have in the blockchain network, like immutability or transaction finality and all that.
Right.
So it can be a very simple blockchain software which would take care of some other principles of blockchain, like writing it to all the nodes and spreading the data only to the known parties and all that. But apart from that, you don't need the other resource intensive mechanisms. That way, those systems would be much more scalable as any other system that is there today, even the centralized system. So the question of scalability comes when you talk about a blockchain,
right.
But that scalability has to be traded for the sake of privacy or anonymity, right? So if you want anonymity, then you have to trade it with the scalability. So you would have a less scalable system and you have more centralized system. But in case of public networks, you already have KYC participant. You would have the scalability that is there in the conventional system.
So tell me, blockchain, I mean, it's not like a new technology, it's almost like a decade-old technology, right? But still we haven't seen these like use cases or implementation which is really impacted. So your views on it?
Yeah, so the adoption of this technology has been a little bit slow, and that happens with the technology that is so transformational, because it's going to disrupt a lot of businesses. It's going to impact a lot of businesses that are already there, and it's going to change the way we do a lot of things. But for that to happen, the technology has to be very mature. The technology is in a very nascent stage. And what I meant by that is, so there are some principles that were given while the Bitcoin was introduced, the blockchain was introduced through Bitcoin. Using those principles, you can implement certain types of blockchain, like the public blockchain networks. But the actual implementation in different kinds of industries has different types of needs, and the blockchain technology that was introduced in Bitcoin does not satisfy all those needs. So different companies, different startups, organization came up with different types of blockchain platform. So this blockchain platform would be the basic that would be delivering the services of blockchain. On top of that, different applications can be built. So different companies came up with their own platforms, like Hyperledger came with Fabric, R3 came with Corda, there is Ethereum's different versions, there is Quorum, there is Multichain, and there are so many. Okay? So everybody came up with some different flavors of this implementation to attack a particular problem that was there in the original implementation. So some targeted the scalability, some targeted the problem of resource intensiveness of proof of work algorithm, some targeted the privacy issue and all that. So they did different implementations. Now, so many technologies around, whoever wants to get into it, they first have to study. Like, so many platforms are there. So which one do I actually adopt? Then they need to really understand that whether this particular technology is something that is going to solve my problem. Is it really the best solution to my current problems? So there are so many enthusiastic people that talk about blockchain as if this is the only solution to the world peace today. But we need to be realistic on this one. Blockchain is a transformational technology. It is going to solve some of the problems, but it is not an aqua regia that is going to dissolve all your problems. So there are some specific things, specific issues that can be solved, and there is a kind of an assessment framework that is there, wherein you can put your business process and check it on different parameters, and then decide whether your business process is really suited for blockchain once you decide, for example, the international remittances, if you see the kind of delays that happen from one party to another, kind of cuts that are taken by different brokers in between. So the $100 coming from US to India, might remain just $70,
right.
and it also would take like 3, 4, 5 days.
Yeah.
So this is a classic, business case wherein blockchain technology can be implemented. But there could be business processes that are happening within an organization, and there are parties that are within organization that are working on that particular system. So it is not at all a case for blockchain. This kind of process can be better handled with the conventional systems and databases that are there in the market.
Right.
So people have to think about it, and then they start implementing it. So there are a lot of startups coming with different types of ideas without even understanding whether this is really a business case. So that's why they are failing. But there are some that are doing good because they thought about it. So this is one part of it, because you have to think a lot about it. You have to come up with the business case. You have to demonstrate the benefits to the stakeholders, and then only there will be implementation. So it will take some time. Then there are some technological challenges. So technology is maturing. There are different components that are getting added. There are issues that are getting fixed in the existing platform. So that way also the adoption would be a little bit slower. Third thing is there is a governance issue. So blockchain is a network technology. So different players from different industries are going to come together and work on this particular network. Now, how do you manage all these people together? Because you have to form basic rule set by which everybody will play in this particular system. And bringing all these people together is not an easy task. Had it been, it would have been done much earlier, and we did not wait for blockchain technology for that. So the governance, how the blockchain network would be set up, who would own the network, who would own the data, who would decide the rules, who will decide who will onboard, who will offboard, which use cases will go on that, which enhancement will go. And there are so many questions that will come, and that would be much more complex than solving it within your organization, because now you're involved like hundreds of organizations that are going to come on this one. So governance is a very important aspect of this particular adoption problem, and it has to be solved. Probably regulators are in a much better position to solve this governance problem, because then everybody would listen to them. The one more issue is about the regulations, or rather lack of it. So for the existing technologies, there are very clear regulations about what you can do or what you cannot do. When it comes to the blockchain technology and the way it works, because it's a distributed technology and there are many players taking part in it, so if something goes wrong, exactly who is responsible for it? It's a very difficult question to answer. The one who maintains the network, is he responsible, or one who sends the data into the network, which goes on each and every node? So these are some things that we never thought about till now. We have to think about it, and even regulators haven't. We have to have a very clear regulations that should put the concept of blockchain technology or distributed ledger technology in the context, and then should give a very clear understanding to all the people that want to adopt this technology, so that they get a feeling of they get confidence that they can deploy this without worrying about the regulations. Recently, Government of India actually has released one draft wherein there is a recommendation of banning the cryptocurrency or any kind of activities that is related to it. Previously also multiple advisories had been sent by RBI to banks to not to do any kind of activities that sponsors or that encourages the transactions in cryptocurrency. So this had put a lot of people down, and those who had opened the exchanges to trade the different kinds of cryptos, so all that investment was kind of was in danger, and now it's almost gone, because it is there's pretty certain directions that it might not be allowed in India. While the crypto part is understood, it is still not understood whether the blockchain, because there are different types of blockchains which do use kind of a token as a vehicle to carry out transaction, even though these are not crypto or not at all related to financial systems. So that makes it a gray area for even the software developers and the companies that are developing some software on it, and the clients that are going to adopt that, whether this particular thing is legitimate or not, whether it fits into the regulation or not. So because of this uncertainty around the regulations, the adoption has been pretty slow. There are certain countries that has actually placed many regulations which clearly defines what you can do, what you cannot do, and that has actually facilitated the adoption of blockchain in those countries. We should look at it.
Right. So you're saying that possibly the regulators is one of the major reason why the adoption is slow, and I think I would agree with you, because like you rightfully mentioned, blockchain is a transformation technology. It's going to impact in technology. I think how long you're going to hold it back, right? I mean, eventually it's going to come through. It's an eventuality. That's how I see it.
To answer that, I'll just take you back to some 150 years back. So this was in US when the automotive industry was just starting, and till that time the horse carriages was the biggest industry there. Now automotive industry started coming, and the horse carriage players, they immediately felt that this is a disruptor and we are going to go out of business. So they started propagating this thing that once this automobile comes in, all the people that are driving the horse carriages are going to go jobless, and what are they going to do, and then we are going to be doomed and all that. So they also tried to stop the advance of automobiles by putting different regulations, like every car should have one person running in front of it, telling everybody that the automobile is coming from back so that you don't get hit, and then other person will stand on to take care of some eventualities and all that. But we know what happened. Something that is going to benefit mankind is going to progress, and the automobiles did, right? So similar kind of things people are thinking at this point, that machines are coming. I mean, if you really look at it, machines have already come.
Yeah, exactly.
Machines are everywhere, right? A lot of things we're doing.
It's in a pocket phone.
It's everywhere, right? What we are doing with this artificial intelligence and machine learning is we are actually trying to solve a problem which anyway we as a human cannot solve. So we are using machines to solve that problem. Now, whether it's going to reduce the employment, the jobs to the people, yes and no. So yes is the work that was manual, that was repetitive, that added no value, is going to be taken away from humans and would be done by machines, which is better done by machines.
Right.
And you would be freeing up your human capital and resources and their skills to do things which machines cannot do. Like the interactions with your client, face-to-face interaction, the human interactions, which machines cannot do, would be done by people, and your client would much better appreciate that. Rather than talking to a phone, IVR, talking to a human being is a much better experience for a customer. So we shouldn't get bogged down by this picture that is portrayed by some of the, I'm not calling socialists, but some kind of pessimistic people that machines are going to take over and this matrix is going to fail and all that. You don't worry about it. We are just bringing in much better life,
right,
using machines at our disposal, and we would be able to do much better things in life.
So tell me, what is the future of blockchain?
See, what is going to happen is this revolution has started and it's going to go a long way. Now, whether the existing blockchain, the way it is today, in that current form, would it go further? That we can't tell, because it has a lot of problems. But every technology has when it starts. These problems are going to be solved, and probably in a shorter period of time, we would be seeing something which is an enhanced form of blockchain and much more adaptable, taking over. So probably whatever we are saying would be gone, and something new will come up and completely replace. Right? Would be based on the same principles, but yes, the direction that has been shown by this technology, which brings a lot of people together and collaborate and do business, which was unthinkable, because all these people are naturally competitors to each other, and it was unthinkable that competitors will come together and try to find a better business for themselves, all of those, which is now becoming possible because of the blockchain technology. So this will go, and something enhanced will come and will get implemented. And again, the technology is such a space that it's so live and so dynamic, right? So technology will keep changing, it will keep bringing in the benefits, and it will try to solve the problems that are there in future, and we'll go ahead. But this thought process that has been brought by blockchain technology is something that is revolutionary, and I think this is going to go a very long way.
Lovely. So any last words to the audience who are listening? I mean, some enthusiasts or people who want to understand more about blockchain, how to reach you, and if they want to get into blockchain, what are the steps that needs to be taken?
Yeah. About reaching me, you can always connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can find me on social media, because nowadays it's not difficult to find anybody, even God, I believe. And about how do you go about this technology? So hit the internet and try to find anything that is there on blockchain. You would see a lot of talks from different types of speakers, and they would talk about different aspects of this technology, try to understand the high level picture of it, and then when you want to get into the further details, probably you can find some relevant course materials, depending on your interest, whether you want to get into development or you want to just become a business analyst who understand blockchain and how it impact different industries. You can find the relevant courses and materials all over the internet, and just start with it, and as you go along you would know what you want to dig further, and to read more and understand more, to get deeper into this technology. So best luck from my side, and enjoy blockchain. It's going to be the future.
So thanks a lot, Sarang. Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you and getting to learn so much about blockchain, its use cases and stuff like that, its future.